and we're going to be talking today about QuickBooks. Just a little bit about myself. I'm Laura Bulas, and I have a company called LRB Accounting in Old Lyme, Connecticut. I've been a QuickBooks Pro Advisor about 7 years now, and I have over 20 years of accounting and tax preparation experience. So I've used the desktop, and now most of my clients use the online version. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And the online version is by far better supported by Intuit than the desktop at this point. So if you're not using QuickBooks at all, I'd recommend that you take a look at the online, because that's pretty much where everything is headed at this point. So what I want to do before we get started is just kind of go around and let folks just give your name and where you are at as far as using QuickBooks, if you have some experience, if you have zero, if you're even just thinking about using it, just so we know where we are.
If people online want to type into chat, you can absolutely do that, and I will read it out. If you'd like to talk when we get to you, I can unmute you.
Okay, so we'll start with the folks that are here.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Marie Carminati. I have no experience with QuickBooks other than reading profit and loss statements that people produce when I review income on mortgage applications.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll start there.
My name is Alyssa, and I have no experience as well.
Okay.
But the new company that I'm working for uses it, so I have to learn how to use it.
Okay. They use the online version?
I believe
Excuse
so,
me?
yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's see what some of the people.
Mary said she has zero experience.
Okay.
Cynthia, did you want to unmute? Oh, Lindsay also has no experience. Deb,
Hi,
hi.
it's Cynthia. Hi, Laura. I'm using QuickBooks Online. I have a small consulting company, small business just started, and I've been using QuickBooks for a little bit, just a little bit, and Laura's been helping me, and she's amazing. And so the English major is learning accounting, and I really do love it. And so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks,
Cynthia.
Cynthia. Lindsay says she's got no experience, and Deb Tarasi and Linda Carullo, they were Stand Up for Animals. They use the online version.
Okay.
Peter? Or Tracy?
Hi, this is Tracy Rose Cook, and our company has been using the online version for QuickBooks probably for 10 years. 10 years ago, it was my job, and then it wasn't, and now it is again. So I am looking for some high-level answers or getting my feet wet again.
Okay, very good.
Okay, anybody online, if you ever have a question, you can go ahead and feel free to type the question into chat, and I will butt in and ask Laura for you.
Yes, that's perfect. That's a perfect plan. All right, so we'll just start with this little fun facts that, oftentimes small businesses have a hard time getting going. And one of the predictors of success is basically monitoring your finances throughout the process. So it's important, whatever software you decide to go with or how you decide to track your income and expenses, that you use something that's pretty valid. And QuickBooks right now is the biggest product we have out there. More people use QuickBooks than anything else to monitor what's going on. I'm going to skip a little bit some of this stuff to get to where I want to be. All right, so most of you know that QuickBooks is a cloud-based software. So that means that it's not maintained on your desktop. It's out on the cloud. You can log in from anywhere, from multiple devices. And with QuickBooks Online, you can even download an app onto your smartphone, which some people really love because they're out and they can bring up quotes, invoices, all sorts of things, take payments right on their phone. So for a small business owner, those tools are very, very handy. When you sign up for QuickBooks Online, if you haven't signed up yet, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but there are different versions. Simple Start is the least expensive and obviously the simplest of them all. My clients who use Simple Start are mainly people who I call like a one-man band, like someone who maybe works with a consultant or a 1099 contractor, and is really just tracking basic things like their basic expenses, no employees, not a lot of invoicing, stuff like that. The bulk of my clients are using one of these two products, either Essentials or Plus. And you can take the time to look at some of the different features if you want, but really what pushes someone from Essentials to Plus is if they have multiple users, or they are doing things like tracking jobs or different, they're doing estimates and things like that. The Essentials can be a little bit limited, so they step it up. I only have like one or two that use Advanced. That's really for a larger company that has a whole lot more going on. It includes up to 25 users, so it's really a much more powerful product. It's more expensive, as you can see, it's a huge jump, but most people fall kind of right in here. If you are using the desktop now and you're thinking about converting to the online, you can do that pretty easily. I do help people do that all the time. I'm not, again, going to go into that. We can get questions about that after, if anyone has questions about converting, but it is something that I have done and we do know how to do. We're actually going to skip to here, the navigation, because this is kind of the most useful, I think, and some of you have to jump in, it sounds like, pretty quickly here. So I'll talk about this. So when you log into QuickBooks Online, you're going to see a screen similar to this, may not be exactly like this, based on your version, it could be slightly different. But the main points of interest are, first of all, over here, all the way on the left-hand side, you have this new button. And I'm actually gonna, if you don't mind, jump to that. Okay, so the new button, and the new button is where you go if you want to do something. Okay, so this is where we keep all of our jobs, if you will. So if you need to invoice someone, you're going there. If you need to write a check, you're going there. You can see if you're accounting savvy, you want to do a journal entry, you're going there. So any of these types of activities that you're doing, they're going to be under the new button. The other major button out here is all the way on the right, and it's this gear icon. And the gear icon is where you go when you want to set things up, basically. Okay, if you can kind of keep track of it that way. So over here, if you look at some of these categories under your company, your account settings, users, etc., chart of accounts, this is where you go to set everything up. Here's where you go to create an invoice, but you go to the gear icon to design your invoice, if you will, or to set it up the way you want it to look. As you can see here under tools, there's a category important desktop data, and that's a wizard that walks you through it. You can go there. Depending on your version, you may have budgeting down here. Smart Look is what Intuit uses if you call and they want you to share the screen with them to help you resolve your issue. So all of that is found under the gear. Okay. Any questions so far? Anything come up yet?
No, does anybody have questions about adding a new or settings? I don't think so.
All right. I'm going to show you my favorite part that I spend most of my time on with my clients, and that's this tab right here, banking. Okay, and banking is, in my opinion, one of the things that makes this product attractive to small businesses. So what you can do under the banking tab is, first of all, it's already been done here by our sample company, but you can log into your bank account and QuickBooks will download all your bank transactions for you on a daily basis. If you look here, it downloads your actual bank balance, and then it tells you what the balance is in QuickBooks. And the reason that there is a difference here is because we have some transactions out here that have not been brought into the software yet. And that's what will change the balance and hopefully bring them together. If any of you have used any other software or the desktop where you had to manually enter transactions, this little tool is a huge time saver. So this guy here, Craig, he obviously has a little problem with his bank account, but we're not, that's not why we're here today. You probably don't want to see that when you log in. That's not fun. All right, so what happens is the transactions come down and they're listed like this. And if you click anywhere besides this blue key, it does what I call, I don't even know if this is the right terminology, but it opens it up. And when it opens it up, what you can see are a couple of different things. First of all, this line here where it says bank detail, this is whatever you're going to see if you log into your online banking and you see a transaction, it has a little information line. That's what it is. Or if you get paper statements or PDF statements, next to the transaction, you're going to see this information. So what you're going to do if you're the person who's maintaining the QuickBooks is go in here and categorize all of these so that they end up in the appropriate account, which we'll talk about after accounts, but this is where you're going to go. So this example here, this is Craig's landscaping. So he's a landscaper and he's paying for something at Books by Bestie. So we'll guess that that's some sort of a landscaping book or something like that. And what QuickBooks does is it downloads it. Luckily, it put Books by Bestie here. Sometimes it doesn't. So you have to type that in yourself, and then it guesses a category. We don't really want, I'm sorry, it's a received. So this is their paying. So I'm going to guess that this is Books by Bessie paying for their lawn mowing or something like that. Uncategorized income is probably not what we want. If you click on this arrow here, you will get a list of all the available accounts that you could put this in. Let's say we're looking at our list here. And we have all the incomes, and I'm thinking to myself, no, I want this to go under lawn mowing. Let's say I don't see the account I want. I can, right here from this space, actually add a new account if I want to put it in. I'm going to caution you not to do that too often because you'll end up with so many different categories. It'll be hard to figure out what went on. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you how to add one here. So if I wanted to do lawn mowing, I can start to type it and you can see, look, something not funky there, but let's start over. It's not coming up. So I can type the whole thing. And I can do add it, right from here. So I'll choose add. All right, anybody who's been working with QuickBooks, this is what I'm going to show you here. When you go to add an account, by default, QuickBooks decides it's a bank account. All right, so that's a little dangerous, all right? Lawn mowing, we want that to be an income account. So you can go down here and click income. And then now that I switched it to an income account, I can pick what type of income. So I'll say service. And maybe I look here and I go, oh, I want it to be a little bit neater than that. So I'm gonna give myself a space here, this and or something like that. I can just design it however I want. And then I can save and close. What I didn't touch on here is this is this a sub account? So some people like to use, again, I'm not going to get crazy with this. This is a little higher level, but is this a sub account? Yes. And you can assign it an account that it's going to go under say like landscaping services or something like that. So I can choose landscaping services. And now if I run a report with all my income under landscaping services, this one will show up. You don't have to do that, but some people like it. They do it with things like insurance, because they have a lot of different insurances and stuff like that. Save and close. So now I can put this in my lawn mowing and I hit add. Another thing I want to touch on in here is sometimes the transactions come through as a transfer. Let's see if they came through. Transfer. Nothing, thank goodness. All right, if you see your transaction come through as a transfer, I always tell people, do not record a transfer, okay? Because it just messes up other things in the QuickBooks. It sets up a dummy account. It works, you can do it, but it's complicated and it causes issues. So I always tell people just to change it to a categorized and select the category from here. And again, you can pick anything you want. Any questions on that? So that's a little much. That's probably what most of you are going to be doing most of the time, is accepting transactions here.
So what is the one match found?
Perfect. All right, so right here we see Chin's gas and oil, a match. So what this is indicating is that whoever's doing the bookkeeping printed a check out of QuickBooks. They ran it and used their printer to print it. And now it's at the bank. So the bank is, so QuickBooks is saying, oh, we found this check came through your bank account that you printed. So we want to match them up. And that's important too, because if you were to say not match it and categorize it, then that check would actually be recorded in QuickBooks 2 times, because it would be recorded when you printed it, and then it would be recorded when it was presented at the bank. So match is handy too, and it helps. Match will also show up. If you look here at this top, you can see that this person has a checking account, but also a MasterCard. So if they make a payment transfer at the bank from their checking account to the MasterCard, those payments, that's another thing you want to make sure matches up, because otherwise, again, it would be recorded 2 times, once when it came through the checking account and once when it came through the credit card.
All right, we do have another question. Does QuickBooks start learning the categories from reoccurring expenses month after month?
And the answer to that is yes, it does. So let's go back to checking, see if anybody came up with anything besides fund categories. Of course not. But yes, if it continues to see something like Hicks hardware and you continue to put that in repairs and maintenance, it will start to pop up. It's important to check because sometimes there are little hiccups there where it doesn't go exactly where you want it to. And you can also do something in here called setting up rules. Okay, again, I don't know if I want to get into that now. That's over here. People set up rules. It just shows you, you can say every time I see Home Depot, I want it to go to this. If you're certain that that is what you want 100% of the time, then yes, that's great. But oftentimes people have rules and then say, well, I did something different there. Like, I guess an example, say you paid, I don't know, say you went to Walmart and you bought supplies for cleaning and stuff like that. And you just put them to supplies. And then you have another account for office expense. You went to Walmart and you bought like paper and stuff like that. And you wanted it to go to office. It could just, QuickBooks will put it in the maintenance supplies. And that's not a great example, I'm sorry. But with rules, I've seen people, have issues if they use the vendor for something different as time passes.
I have a question about the matching.
Okay.
what criteria does it use to match? Not only the amount, but also the date and the payee?
Well, here, that's a very good question. So here it looks like it's somebody named Pam. And if you look here, you see two different things coming up. They paid Pam. And they're saying, should we match it with the expense or should we match it with the actual payment?
Also, then
Okay.
you have the option to go in and manually choose which one is the real match.
Correct.
Okay.
And you can also, so we'll do that here, we'll match it with the bill pay. But what you can also do, even say we have something here and you see this and it shows you what's going on. You could say that's not the right match. That's why I always check them. And you can click this button here and do find other matches. And then QuickBooks will bring up other possible matches for that. So very good question. It's like this here is a deposit and saying we're matching it. This happens to me all the time to this invoice. And maybe it's not, maybe it's two people paying different invoices. I went to the bank with two checks. So maybe it's not that invoice at all. It's completely different customer. Okay.
And you can split them too, right?
Absolutely. So let's look at that too. So like a rental, for example, let's say we know that we bought some supplies there, but we also rented a machine. Then when you're going to do the transaction, you can choose split. And you can use two different categories here. So you could say part of it, let me just any old thing here. Is I don't know, some job materials. $100 here. And then we'll make the other part. Okay. So even if it's one charge, you don't have to put it to just one expense. You can break it up like that. And then QuickBooks will tell you when you successfully, put everything in, you can just find Excel.
I do it most often with bank deposits.
Yes.
When you deposit like multiple checks or checks in cash to say that this applies to this account, but this amount applies to that account.
Right. Yeah, you have to, because otherwise, if you have invoices in here, it'll, if you do your invoices through QuickBooks, you can run reports that show you how much money people owe you. So you want that to be up to speed, so you know exactly where you're at with all of that. I don't know, this is the most important part of the whole thing. So if anybody has other questions.
Yeah, I have a rule set for interest. Do I still add it to reconcile?
No, you do not. So that's a very good question. That's a little. All right, so another fancy part of QuickBooks is you can reconcile right in here. And for those of us who used to reconcile with paper and pencil, it's very, very similar. Okay, and we're gonna take a look at that in a second here. Let's get reconciled. So as you'll notice, you might be thinking of the desktop because here we're not really given the option to add the interest in with that. But let's say we're going to reconcile the checking account. Of course, I'm going to make stuff up here and say the balance is 3,500 at the end of December. And let's reconcile. So reconciling in QuickBooks Online is like as simple as can be. I mean, it's like this because I just made up a number, but if you had the right number, hopefully it would work out. Let's get rid of this stuff. But what it does is, see if we have anything. Okay, so if something comes through the bank, if it's a transaction that came through the bank, like this here, I just accepted that. QuickBooks will automatically select it, meaning it knows it's on the bank statement and include it in the reconciliation. So if you remember the old days where you used to take your paper check register out, your bank statement and check everything off, this does that piece of the checking off for you. And then usually it comes out with a zero difference if all the transactions downloaded from the bank properly. If it doesn't come out with a zero balance, then you know something's awry. And I usually go back to old school and uncheck everything and check them all off one at a time based on the statement, because that's how I know. But yeah, good question about reconciling. So one of the other little cornerstones to this whole program is here where you're selecting a category, you might wonder, where do these categories come from, or how does it know these categories? And they come from something called your chart of accounts. Again, if you're just setting your QuickBooks up now, this is one of the most important fundamental pieces that you really want to hammer down.
We can,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
has a sub question
Yeah,
for
go
the
ahead.
rule. She says it's still sitting as uncategorized income. Is that because her rule's not set to say that it needs to be interest earned?
Yes, her rule must be set to say uncategorized income for the interest transaction.
So it's sitting as uncategorized. Does it?
Okay. Does she, do you have an account for interest income? Because some places don't, some companies.
She says,
just-
yes, she does.
She does. Okay, so you would want to have to change your, go in and change your rule. Okay, which let's see if we even have any, we have no rules. But you can add rules here, and you can also, if we had a rule, let's do this. Okay. Just.
She says, yes, perfect. After I choose the interest category, then I just hit add.
Oh, did you figure, she figured it out?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'll just get it to come up here. Hopefully. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, they'll show up here, and then under this action column, you can choose edit. You can edit the rules here. So, okay. All right, so back to chart of accounts, because that's kind of major. So when you go in to set up your QuickBooks Online, you go through this wizard and asks you all these questions. What type of company is it? Stuff like that. And depending on what you choose there, QuickBooks will assign you this chart of accounts based on your industry. And then you, as the user, can go in and manipulate this if you want to. There are certain accounts that you can't, you know, get rid of, but there are other accounts that you can, and you can certainly add accounts. Depending upon which subscription you choose, you can add, you know, that tells you how many accounts you can add. 250 seems to be enough for everyone, at least most people. And so, for example, you might set this up and just get an income account, and you can go in like they did here at Craig's Landscaping and add some different other accounts. And they're calling them sub accounts. Okay. Same thing is true with expenses. You can go in, you can use the expenses that it gives to you, and you can add expenses. And this is where I just caution folks to be aware that the more accounts you add here and get really descriptive, it might get you to the point where your financial statements are not usable. So you want to keep this as tight as possible, but yet useful. And we'll look at a profit and loss, so maybe you can understand a little bit more what I'm talking about when I say keep it tight. So this is another feature of QuickBooks that's really important, and this is why a lot of people use it. It's the report feature, because if you go to the bank for a loan, or if you have to report to anybody like a board at your company, or any even supervisors, sometimes they like to look at these reports, and profit and loss is one of the main ones that is asked for often. So just using Craig's landscaping as an example, you can see these are all the income accounts. It doesn't even fit up, barely fits on the screen here, how many different categories he has. So that's where you want to ask yourself, like, do we really need to get this detailed? And maybe you do, but maybe all you care about is job materials. Okay, so these are the sorts of things you want to think about when you're adding to the chart of accounts. And this is why the coding on that banking stream is important, because whichever category you choose is where that transaction is going to show up here. So, for example, advertising, who knows what that is? But what's another nice feature in QuickBooks Online is if I'm looking at this on my screen, not a printout, then I could say, oh, advertising, I didn't think we did any advertising. I can actually click on that transaction and it'll show me what's in there. So this one, for example, shows me that Lee's advertising, we charged something on our MasterCard for $74.86. So that's handy also if you're the QuickBooks user and your manager says to you, you know, what insurance do we pay this month? You know, you can quickly answer the question. So that's helpful. Questions there? I feel like I said a lot there.
Does anybody have any questions or anything specific that they're learning or they would like to learn how to do?
Otherwise, I'll talk more about these reports because they're kind of cool. All right. All right, well, if the question comes up, we'll stop. But what you can do with these reports, you can customize them quite a bit. So I don't know, I went a little quick here when I did this drop down, but with this drop down arrow, you can choose whatever period you want to look at for this report. So for example, since we're in January, a lot of folks are looking at last year right now. So if we click on last year and I'm going to do run report, and you'll notice what happened here, the dates changed to the year. And now I have all of the transactions that were coded to these income and expense accounts for the year listed here. Here's one that I go to as the accountant all the time when I look at somebody's profit and loss, especially someone who had, you know, this much income. Why do they have $2,000 in the miscellaneous? So that I'll go there right away and say, what's happening? Oh, Hicks Hardware, maybe that should have gone to repairs and maintenance. And that's where we kind of recode, we see insurance in there, right? And as the accountant and as the user, I can tell you that I often just run a report like this and literally kind of click on all of them to see if the transactions make sense. It's a way to clean up the books pretty quickly, is just to go here. Other features that you might see up here, I have display columns by totals only. If I wanted to run a report where I wanted to compare the year and look at each month, I can do that right here. Again, I have to do run, so it'll do it, but now I have a column with each month showing me what went on. Okay, sometimes people like that. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish with the report. You can do show active, only show the accounts that don't have zero, you know, whatever you want to do there. Another feature that I use a lot is this one. You can compare to another period. So I'm running the report for last year, but maybe I want to see what went on. Of course, this company has nothing because it's sample, but maybe I want to see what went on in 2021 to see. That's another way I kind of review things quickly to see if something looks really out of whack, right? So you could look, for example, we can't see the year, but let's just say we went to something like looking for accounting, all right, and you have $640 here. And maybe over here you have 2,500. You say, wait a minute, did we not pay the bill? Is something wrong? Maybe it's in the wrong account. Okay, stuff like that. It gives you a clue that maybe something's awry before you.
We have a couple
Share
of
them.
questions online.
Oh, good.
In December, a customer requested a prepayment invoice. I am not sure when to show as revenue. Do I wait until the payment is made, which may be a month from now?
Okay, so that basically, that's not really the QuickBooks question. That's depends on what type of a taxpayer you are. So if you're what we call a cash basis taxpayer, you recognize the income when they pay the bill. If you're what we call an accrual-based taxpayer, which is what came up here, accrual-based folks recognize revenue and expenses when it occurs. So if you dated the invoice for December, then that's when you would recognize it if you're accrual-based. Okay.
The other question is, how do you create and save a custom report for a certain, oh, she said they're accrual.
Okay.
How do you create and save a custom report for a certain category / account for future review?
What do you mean by a customer report?
Well, I think
Report?
like a report like you're in now. I think it's just a save customization, right?
Oh, a custom report.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. I was thinking a customer. Okay. Yes, you can run a custom report here. So you can change some other features. I have found this to sometimes be a little bit limited. Okay, but you can change different aspects of the report, and you can, yes, you can run it. So let's just change I don't know, without cents or something like that. And we'll just get to dollars, and then you want to save it. It's right here. Okay.
And then, so, oh, good. So what if they want to look at a specific category or account? Can you do that?
Sure. So I hope you mean one of these categories here that are on the report. So you do that by clicking on the number. Okay, and that opens up all of the transactions that make up that.
Can you save that or print that?
You absolutely can. I do it all the time. So what I typically do, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but you can download that, or I always do print to a PDF. Okay, so that's how I do it. You can either do save as a PDF or, print it, whatever you want to do. But yes, definitely.
And somebody said they appreciate the explanation of cash versus accrual.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know, because most people don't know what that is. So you want to find out, you can also in QuickBooks, this is kind of handy for those of you who are new to a lot of this, is you find if you just kind of go around with your mouse, you can click on a lot of things and get more information. So look at this. All right, are you cash or accrual? Find out more. And you get a little blurb here. You could say if this is helpful or not, whatever, just shut it. I personally, I use this sometimes, but really most of the time I do this, I go to Google and I type, how do I blank, blank, blank in QuickBooks Online? And you get the answer pretty quickly. You'd be amazed. So sometimes I get a little lost in the help because it's so detailed and looking for the keywords and stuff like that, that sometimes going out here is fun. You can get help from QuickBooks. If you want, I mean, it's mixed there. You can go here, look things up. They have all sorts of boards where people post their own answers, and those are kind of interesting. Because I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, I have a special phone number I get to call when I have a QuickBooks question and talk to the experts. And they are usually pretty helpful, but I can't tell you how often I call and they don't have the answer. So like, I can only imagine if you're like an end user and you're calling. So sometimes it's good to have a pro advisor because sometimes you can get to the answer quicker. I don't know, or solve the problem.
You got a question?
Oh, you got a question. Go ahead.
Okay, so when you save the reports, Do they save to like a database in the QuickBooks, or do you have to download them all to the computer?
No, so what I saved only was the customization. It didn't save the actual report. It just saved
Okay.
the fact that I said cut off the cents
Okay,
on that report. So yeah, you'd have to download, if you want to save the actual report, you'd
Yeah.
have to download that.
okay,
save
so
it.
they're not saved anywhere in
No.
there. Okay.
No, but I mean, you can pull the report anytime from in
Anytime.
there. So so say you wanted this month's profit and loss statement.
Mhm.
So you would do your January profit and loss statement, print it out, go away. And then all of a sudden you can't find it in your files anymore,
Mhm.
or the board's like, oh, well, I lost my January profit and loss statement. You just go back and you put January, blah,
And then
blah,
pull it right back
pull it
up.
right back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and that brings up a really good point that's not QuickBooks, but accounting point, is that you want to be really careful when you give people reports about going back and making changes to that period, any transactions in that period after the fact, because that will change these reports. So if you do that, if you try to rerun the January, you'll see it's different. I mean, that is something, there you go, that I do, like if you want to know what your accountant does. They run a report at the end of the year, they do your tax return. Then you come back the following year, you're like, I want to do my tax return. The first thing I do every time, learned a long time ago, is run the report from last year to see if they changed anything, because that will affect. I'll know right away if they went back and changed stuff. But you want to be very careful of that. Sometimes it can't be avoided, but just watch that. You can also edit, like see what happens when I scroll here. I get a little pencil. So you can edit the title if you want. I mean, you can really do a lot of customizing in here with the tools that you're given. I don't know.
Did anybody online have anything else?
I'll just talk about some of the other things you could do. Not at the moment.
No, it's a moment.
Okay, so depending again on which subscription you choose, you might choose to run payroll through QuickBooks. And again, they have different subscription levels here. They have subscriptions where you can run the paychecks, pay everybody, and then QuickBooks does all your payroll maintenance for you, which would be things like paying your payroll taxes, filing payroll returns, all that stuff, all the way down to where you just use them basically to calculate it. You're doing all that stuff manually. Of course, it costs more to have them do it for you, but I don't know. It's kind of like if you're going to use someone to do your payroll, why would you not use those features to save yourself some time? Right, there are other payroll companies you can use, but some people choose to do this. It's a little bit more expensive, but then again, all the transactions go in the way you want them to, so that is worth some of the tip. So you can add employees here, and you can use direct deposit. And I believe they have some of my clients have same day direct deposit. So if they go in, put the transaction in before say 10 a.m. or something like that, people can literally be paid the same day. It's kind of handy. So that might not be offered with a payroll call. Okay, so that's a little add-on feature that they have. Some of these other tabs here. Taxes, you can use taxes to calculate sales tax, but that's something I wanted to show you today because it was the end of the year, is that you can prepare your 1099s here in QuickBooks. So what you do if you want to do 1099s is you go here to expenses, and under expenses, you can look at your different bills, or you can go to the vendors tab. I went to expenses. As you can see, as soon as you go in there, there's a button that says prepare 1099s. I looked this up yesterday in anticipation of our class. So right now QuickBooks is charging, I believe, $14.95 to process the 1099s. And with the $14.95, you can get 3 1099s. If you go beyond that, then they'll charge you, I think it's $3 or $4 for each 1099 above 3. if you're gonna use QuickBooks to run your 1099s, I would, before I went in here, make a list of everybody I think needs a 1099. People who need 1099s are individuals or LLCs who do not operate as S corporations and who you paid more than $600 to in the year for a service. So don't get bogged down if you bought something from somebody, that's not 1099, okay, something tangible. It's only for services, not for goods. And when you go in here, just again, it's a wizard, which is kind of fun. So first of all, it tells me that Craig is missing some information. Yes, let me see if I can find this here. So I can give him a phone number, just so we can move on. And tax ID. Thank you. Okay. Valid address. Still doesn't like it. One I know. So maybe that could be the problem, right? All right, so apparently it's checking the zip code there. So you can check, double check your company information here, but what I really want to show you, Wes, why we're moving on, is that you can decide what type of 1099s you need. If you're doing them yourself, just so you know, so a couple of years ago, we got a new 1099 called the NEC, which is what most contractors receive. And what happens is when you go in here to run your 1099s, the first question QuickBooks is going to ask you is, which account did you put these people's payments in, right? So some people use an account called contractor. Say you're giving one to your accountant, you might have one in there. But you can choose multiple accounts here that you put your control, because I thought we need to do that. All right, so you can add multiples, okay, and it'll look and it'll see if you have any payments in there. Let's go next.
Somebody said they have the 1099s ready to print and learned of an address change for one of the vendors. Can they go in, change the address on his account and not affect the totals?
They should be able to do that, yes. And if you look here, even in this screen, review your information, you could change the address right here. So you beat me to it, but yeah, that's what you can do. So even if there's a problem, like you see a typo, that can happen, you know, and you're in here doing this, you're like, oh, the address has a mistake in it, you can fix it here. Yep. So if you're doing it that way, that's pretty simple. You can add others, as you can see here. So we get to the screen, there's only one person, and maybe you know that there are other vendors that need 1099s. You can check them off. Okay, so that's why I say make the list first, because they might not necessarily, if you don't pick the right accounts, or you know, you don't realize that you put somebody's payments in a different account for something, you might miss them here when you're going through the wizard. So you should kind of figure out who you think needs them first. Okay. Other questions?
We have about 8 minutes left. Does anybody have any other questions?
I'll show you invoices. That's just timely because the 1099s are due at the end of the year. So another super handy tool in QuickBooks is you can send out invoices from here. So we'll take a look at Craig's invoices first. All right. when you go to the invoice screen, you get some good information. You can see how many invoices you have outstanding. Yes, 5,281. Tells you which ones are overdue and which ones are not due yet, how much you've been paid, you know, stuff like that. Good little statistics for a business owner. If you click here, you can see what's happening. It says not sent, so I want to go into this one. Let's see. I need to hit the pencil. Here we go. So here is that invoice. And this is something I use and a lot of people use. You can, once you create the invoice here in QuickBooks, all these things, by the way, can be set up. You can set up your customers and put whatever information you want, their address. If you have their email, you can email them the invoice, which is really handy and a time saver. You can also, we don't have it here and I don't know why, but in all the other versions, when you go into the invoice, you'll have some boxes here, and the boxes allow you to check off if you want to allow this person to pay with their bank account or to pay with a credit card. And you can set up in your, under the gear in your setup to accept those payments. Again, it's another task, but you can definitely look that up online and get the steps for that.
Are there also options for like PayPal or Venmo or anything like that?
Not that you can check off here in the program, as far as I know, but you can use their payment. Or what you can do with some of the other vendors like PayPal. I think you could send the invoice through them. Okay.
But you could also add PayPal or Venmo as another account, right? Like a bank account. So when you get payments in there,
See, I don't use
will that
those.
match
Can you
it?
do that?
I don't know. That's what
Oh, on the front screen?
Yes.
You can add, you can feed from PayPal. It'll take the payments, but I don't know if you can send the invoice and have somebody check off pay with my PayPal. You know,
No, I
when
was just
they
thinking,
get it,
yeah, I was just thinking like if you added PayPal as another account, then you could match those two transactions.
You can, yeah. So if you add PayPal, you got to watch that, because sometimes I have people who pay stuff out of PayPal and then they don't have any money in there, and then it transfers from their bank account and then it goes. So again, watching for double reporting, because yes, that happens.
I did that when I added our
did?
Square account. It doubled everything.
Yeah,
Because
Square is famous for that.
so
yeah.
I had to take it off because we were downloading it from our online banking plus Square, and so it
Yeah.
was doubling it.
And you just took it off.
And I just took it off, but
Yeah.
it made a mess.
Yes, I had some at a store. Can you imagine? And they were taking every payment as a Square payment. Yeah. So anyway, so you can check those off, because I do that, and then email people, and you know, there's a charge. It's it's like 2.9% for the transaction. It's a little high. If you go to the bank and get a machine, you can probably get a lower rate, but it's convenience. Okay. So you can check that off. You can do save and send. And then when you do save and send, it's going to bring me to the save and send screen here. It shows you that it's going to send an email to designitintuit.com. It tells you how it's going to read. So you can go in here and edit this if you want to say something different. And if you don't, you can just do send and close. And guess what? The person, well, we knew that, but the person gets an email and it says, here is your invoice. They click on it, they can look at it. They have a button that says pay now. So sometimes that's worth a little bit because you get paid fast. Okay. If you select for people to pay with bank account transfers, those are much less expensive than the credit card transaction.
I just got an invoice from my plumber a few days ago.
And that's how they come through, just like that. So it's, I don't know, it's handy. And then if you're the person who's sending these things out, I keep forgetting to check on the pencil. This is another fun fact for if you're the user, we don't see it because it's a sample company, but down here you see all the history of what went on with these invoices. So it'll say, when you sent it, it'll say when they opened it, how many times they opened it, because sometimes people will say, oh, I didn't see it. Okay, you can look right there and you get all that information. So that's kind of fun too, okay? Or you can see they didn't open it for since the last time you sent it, so maybe you want to resend it, you know, stuff like that. Great. Getting to the nitty gritty here, so I don't know if anyone has a quick question before we go.
I do not have anything in chat.
Okay,
This was really helpful.
was it helpful?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
Definitely, thank you.
There's a lot more to it, obviously, so I'm just trying to hit the highlights here, so you can at least do some basic work.
For somebody like me that's never seen it from this end, it's a good, really good
Good
starting point.
Okay,
Definitely.
good.
And I know it was a lot of information and
In and
some
out.
people are taking great notes, but what I will do is give everybody the link to this video. So if you were like, I forgot what she said about that, you can go back and watch it. I will give you Laura's contact information so you can reach out to her if you have any questions.
Okay, so to back up here, all right, there's my contact information. Yes, reach out if you have questions.
Deb says, how do you receive the payment? It comes into QuickBooks or
Yeah.
you have to hook up your bank account, right?
Yeah, well, if you hook up your bank account, Deb, then you can match the payment. If you have an invoice, you can match it.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you.
You can do receive payment when the person pays.
For invoices though, do you have to set up, you have to set up like a payment account,
Yeah,
though,
like
right?
see, these are matching because there's an invoice, or this one's matching to a deposit. Let's see if any of these are matching to an invoice payment. Right there. All right, so it should tell you here what invoice it's matching it to, if you're matching to an invoice. I know some people go in and they do receive the payment first, and then they deposit the money, and then the payment comes through here, and then you, if you do that, you definitely have to match it, otherwise it'll be twice.
I think they were wondering like, so if you send an invoice through QuickBooks and
Oh.
they click pay now.
It
how does-
matches it automatically.
Yeah,
They'll
but if
come
they
through.
click pay now and they send it from their account, how does it get from that to you?
They'll show up in your bank account.
Okay, so
Because you
yes.
connect a bank account to it, yeah. So let's say somebody goes in there and does pay now. If you go to run one of these reports that shows what everybody owes you, that person who just paid, they'll be off the report that second they do it. And when the payment comes in, it just gets matched to, did you see those ones out here that said payment?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, okay,
Got it.
right.
So did you get like, so you basically have to set it up to deposit into whatever account you want it to
Right,
deposit into.
Right, you put your business, you go in here and you do payments. And that's where you set all that up. I remember the last time I was in here, it doesn't show up here, but it shows up on yours. It's because the sample company is not all up to speed, but you'll have a tab over here that says payments. And you go in there and it'll walk you through everything you need to do to set up to receive payments. And you can do credit cards, banks, or both. Okay, and yeah, it's totally handy if you have trouble getting people to pay.
Well, thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. I hope you learned something today.
Almost
I think that.
Yeah, definitely did.
All right, good. Sideways here.
All right. Thank you to everybody for coming. If you have any questions, Laura's information's on the screen right now. You can also reply to any of the emails that you got sent about this class and I can connect you with Laura, but you'll also receive a follow-up email to this class with information and links to the video.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Too.